Good morning. What a pretty day. Some of the snow has melted off a little bit. And this morning, this morning was pretty cold. We had 12 degrees. I think it got down a little lower than that even. I don't remember now, 11, something like that. But it's warming up pretty good now. The sun's shining. We got nice blue skies and pretty day. But these things, I've always kind of liked gadgets, stuff that serves a number of uses. So on my little Jeep here, I've built a receiver hitch on there, and I built this skinning arm. This one's a tall one. I can hang elk and everything from that one. And then on this one, I did the same thing on my little truck here. And this one will go either on the Jeep or it'll go on the pickup. And it's not quite as tall. It looks like it in the video, but it's not. And this one's for the smaller things like coyotes and beaver and that sort of stuff. But one of the things that new trappers especially, one of the reasons they don't stick with it is that catching these critters is the fun part. Taking care of them afterward, the fleshing and the stretching and all that stuff, the marketing, that's all a lot of work. That's not fun, it's just a chore. And it's real easy to throw stuff into your freezer and then forget about it. That's kind of where I'm at now. As much as I hate to admit that. I've got those wolves in there, and I got some in there from a while back, quite a while back, that I'm hoping aren't freezer burnt, and Cindy's got a bear in there. I gotta get all those out and get them taken care of. And freezer burnt or not, I'm gonna find a use for them, and I hope they're not ruined. But I gotta get those out of there. I gotta get all that taken care of before I go catching any more. And take the skinning rack off, and I'll show you my fleshing beam. It's a little different than most people use. This thing here is an adapter. It'll slide into the receiver hitch, and I can put that skinning rack on there. This little hand winch, supposedly it's rated at 10,000 pounds, but I don't know if I really believe that. It might, I mean, if you're not stuck too bad, it might be able to pull you out, but mainly I use that to snug the canoe down in the front. But that comes off, then you got just a standard receiver hitch tube that this slides into. Like that. And here's my skinning arm, skinning beam. I don't like, a lot of people use a big wide board that's like a 2x8, 2x12. This one's small. It's more like a fence rail, and I really like it that small. You can slide a fox on there all the way. You can put, whatever you want. And the bigger animals, it works good too. So the only thing I don't like about this, and when I built it, I kind of tried to make it adjustable because of the wing nuts, that it isn't very adjustable. So right now, this is sitting a little bit too high. It's clear up here on my chest. I like it more about here. So one thing nice about it being truck mounted, all I have to do is drive it to a different spot. If I turn around, or I could put this in the receiver hitch in the back. That might be what I end up doing. But you stand in a little bit of a low spot or a high spot, depending on what you need, and it adjusts it on its own. So anyway, it's a pretty practical deal. So that works to adjust that. Most of the time I can find a low spot to park it in, but it really wouldn't be that hard to cut that off and make a pivot where it is adjustable. I might do that, but not today. So this thing, it does look kind of goofy. It looks like a unicorn or a narwhal or something. But it does work well. On beaver, it's really hard to tell whether they're male or female until after you get them skinned out. And I'm going to have to turn this to black and white because YouTube doesn't seem to like red very much. Anyway, when you look at a beaver, these here are not what they look like. Both the male and the female have those. Those are castor glands. That's the scent glands that the beaver use to mark territory. On this one, I've already taken them off. These things here, those are oil sacs. And what they do, they comb the oil into their hair to help waterproof it. The way you tell whether they're male or female, though, is that. That one's a male. That one is a female. It doesn't have that. So that's kind of what I was expecting. This is a male and female that moved into this spot. And I'll bet you just about anything that these are the only two beaver I catch there. They haven't been there long enough to raise families or anything like that. They just moved in, and it was a bad idea. I used to really dislike putting up a beaver. They're hard to skin. The meat is like they're super glued to them. About the only thing that's worse is otter. Those things are horrible. But I finally found a way. They're hard to flesh too. That's the biggest problem. But they're always falling off your fleshing beam. I finally found a way to doing this that I've been doing for several years now, and I've showed this before, but I'll do it again here. I should have done it before I skinned him out, but this is all skinned out. I case skin my beaver. Beaver, generally you cut them from the base of their tail to the chin, and you open them up and you spread them out where they're round. Well, they're always falling off your fleshing beam that way. So I case skin them. The way I do it, on a regular, like a coyote or something, you cut from the leg up to the base of the tail to the other leg, and then you peel them off like you would a sock. With the beaver, you can't do that. So what I do is I cut the tail off, all four legs, then I cut about 6-8 inches up the belly. Okay, and then you take and you work the feet out through that belly cut, like that. And then the feet are out here, and then you just case skin them the way you would anything else. What that does is it keeps them on the fleshing beam, and they're not rolling off and falling off all the time. All this fat and meat and stuff that's on here, that all has to come off. And it's a real pain in the butt to do if it's falling off your beam. And this way, it's not bad at all. And then the other big plus to it is when you get done, the edges where you nail it down or lace it onto a frame, they don't have any grease on them, and it looks really nice when you're done. Now see how that is? That's not going to roll off the beam at all. I can turn it any way I want and get it done, and then I'll cut it up the belly after that. Okay, so that's about as clean as that's going to get. A lot of the fat and stuff, meat that comes off, I saved that for bait, and it makes really good bait for just about everything. Those little onion bags that look like almost like a fish net, those work really good. If you put some of that into one of those and nail it to a tree for pine marten and things, it works really good. But anyway, now that I got this that far along, what you do now is figure out where your belly cut was right there. So now you cut down the belly. I do that last, and that way there's no, see how nice and fluffy the edges are? There's no grease on that. I'm not going to be able to do this one-handed. This board is cut from a half sheet of plywood in a circle, and what you do is you nail the edge of the hide about every inch all the way around. Try to get it as round as possible, or oval, depending on what the fur market's asking for. See how this is where my belly cut was. There's still some fat along here. I'll trim that off, but up here where I cut it last, there isn't any. There's no oil on the fur. It looks really nice. It finishes them out really good. But for now, my sunlight is about to go behind that hill. And then it's going to drop about 10 degrees, and I'm going to be miserable. So, I got one more beaver to try to flesh. I don't think I'm going to make it, but I'm going to get as far along as I can before I do. Well, I didn't beat it by very much, but I beat it. Got that guy all done in about probably 10-15 minutes. It's going to be really cold here. The beaver caster, if you dice it up or grind it up and put it into a jar, it's the best lure that I've ever found for really anything. Everything likes beaver. And I know that sounds like a joke, but it's not. Coyotes, wolves, fox, other beaver, pine marten, anything you can imagine. Even people, actually. They used to use this in ladies' perfume. And believe it or not, they used to use it as imitation vanilla. Just kind of disgusting, but we probably have eaten it and didn't know it. But nowadays I don't think they use it anymore. They use something else. But it's good stuff. That's one of the best lures there is for just about everything there is. Some of this, it's the weirdest stuff too. Some of this in this jar, and other jars I have, I bet I've had those for upwards of 10 years. I just keep refilling them as I need it. Beaver caster is a strange thing. It really doesn't seem to rot. And I have no idea why that is. I don't use any preservative in it at all. I just put it in the jar and sometimes add a little bit of water every now and then. You do want to, like this one, it's got a little bit of meat still on it. You do want to get all the meat off. But other than that, it'll keep for many, many years. It doesn't seem to lose any potency either. The caster from just one beaver, along with what I had already in that jar, which wasn't a lot, come close to filling it up. It's probably 3/4 full. And that little jar of beaver caster will, like I said, last me a lot of years, and it'll catch many, many more beaver. A few years ago, I don't think the price is that high now, but a couple of years ago, beaver caster was selling for around $100 a pound. And I don't know how many it takes to make a pound, because they dry it some before you sell it. But I'm guessing probably 5 or 6 beaver would do a pound if they're halfway decent sized beaver. So let's say it takes 5 beaver to make a pound of caster. That makes them $20 per beaver for the caster alone. The hide sells for, right now they're up a little bit. They're still not very high. Most of them will sell for between 20 and 30 bucks. A lot of them for a lot less. Some beaver, probably $5 is all. The hides really aren't that much. The tails, now that I've learned how to tan them, I can, you split them in half, so you got two tails out of one. And each one of those I can make something to sell out of. If I were to sell them, without making anything out of them. I'd probably sell them for $15 a piece or so. So that's 30 bucks. 30, 40, 50, 60, $70 for a beaver. That's not too bad if you use all the byproducts. Oh, and the skull. You can sell the skull for probably $5 or so, maybe a little more. Moscow Hide and Fur, I think they're in Moscow, Idaho, but they will buy beaver teeth and I think claws. So it all adds up if you do it right. If you sell them strictly through the fur trade, just the pelt alone, you're liable to get anywhere from about $5 on up to maybe $40 at most. Years ago, I got $60 back in the 80s for a good-sized beaver, but that hasn't been like that since the 80s. This is the trimmings off of those two hides. That's quite a little bit of bait there. Plus I had enough to put bait into two of the live traps over here by Cindy's Chickens. She's got something that I'm pretty sure is a raccoon, but hard to tell. It might be a skunk, but something's been eating her chickens here, so gotta get rid of that. So, thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.